Hello and welcome to Lesson of the Day with Mr. A. Today's lesson is going to be a maths lesson. So let's get into it. So what are we going to be learning about in this maths lesson? First of all, we'll be looking at recognizing, representing and ordering numbers to at least tens of thousands. And this was very similar to the lesson I set you earlier in the week when we did the cross number. If you haven't had time to do that, why don't you go back onto Seesaw and have a look at that, maybe after this lesson. Also, we'll be doing some problem solving, experimenting with a range of options and seeking the best solution. What are you going to need? You're going to need a pencil and a piece of paper. And if you have access to one, you might also be able to use a printer for this. But there is a workaround if you don't have one. So what is the question? Well, here are some words, 3, 4, 60, so on. What numbers can you make by combining these words together? Well, as always, let's start with a few easy ones before we start getting into the hard ones. Well, I can see a 3, which is pretty easy, isn't it? We can just do a 3. While we're there, might as well do a 4 as well. I like to start with the easy ones, but as we're getting bigger, you can see the 60 is here. So I can put the 60 by itself, and then I combine the 60 with the 4 and the 60 with the 3 to make some more numbers. The same thing goes with the 100. I can make 700 and 64, well, 700 and 63. And then we can get into the thousands, so we can have 8,000, 764. Notice when you write the word, you use the comma, but when you write the number using digits, you don't put a comma because the comma can get confused for a decimal point. Now you can get quite inventive with this, using that and, because we can use the and to show that there is a blank place. So we could use 8,067. As you can see, there are plenty of numbers you can make using those words. This is going to keep you busy for a little bit. Try and find all of them if you can. So what problem-solving strategies are we going to use to help us solve this problem? The first one is act it out, and this is where the printer comes in. If you've got access to a printer, why don't you print out the numbers, or print out the words, cut them up with some scissors and sort them yourself. If you don't have access to a printer, you can write down these words on a piece of paper and cut them up and do the same thing. Looking for patterns is really important. Where does that 60 go? There's really only one spot, but there is a second spot you can put it as well. See if you can work that one out. Where does the and go? Look for the pattern in how you use the word and. Now, how are you going to display your answer and send it back to me? Making a table, perhaps from smallest to biggest, might help you organize your response. And finally, if you're finding it a bit confusing and a bit overwhelming, try just getting the small numbers first. All those numbers, just using maybe hundreds and the 60 and the units. That might be a good start. Once you've found those small numbers, tacking on a 8,000 to the front of that isn't too tricky. Parents, how can you help your kids? Well, the best thing to do is to ask them questions, and hopefully they can work out the answers through your very targeted questioning. One question you might like to ask is, can you see a pattern? Or maybe, can you see a pattern with the units or with the tens place? Look at asking them which words don't change places. Obviously the 60 doesn't change place, but that 100 and that word 1,000 also doesn't change place too often. And finally, that word and to create that 0, 803, 7,067. That use of the word and is quite tricky, and your child may need a bit of help with that. Finally, all kids are pretty happy to say, I'm finished and I've got all of them. Make your child prove that they've found all of the possibilities, which is of course pretty difficult, but if they've understood the question well, they should be able to do that. If you've enjoyed this task, or if it was a bit easy, how can we do an extension? Choose another number, cut that up, perhaps a number that uses the same word twice, 242. How many different words can you make with that? And finally, adding the word point really increases the number of possibilities you can make. For example, you could make the word 3,467.8. I'm going to be talking about decimals a lot more in third and fourth term, but if you're looking for an extension, this might be a good way to go. Great, well thanks for joining me for my first lesson of the day. We'll see how this goes, see if you've been able to access it. Once you've got your answer, you can either email it to me or send it to me on Seesaw. Have a great holiday, and I'll see you with a lot more of these lessons in term 2. Great, thanks a lot guys, bye.